Welcome back, class. So we're going to be moving on to the later stages of the Civil War. This week, we're going to be looking at Gettysburg. So this week, pretty similar to the last couple weeks, two Khan Academy videos and questions that go along with them. Please make sure you're doing these. I've been noticing a lot of you have been skipping watching the videos. Those are worth points. Easy points. You watch them, you get points. And if you want your grade to improve, the more work you do and the more points you get, the better your grade will get. So Khan Academy questions again. And this week we're going to be looking at the document of the Gettysburg Address. It is a speech that Lincoln is going to give. Now, for this week, your Maddux Monday will be a little bit shorter than normal because I'm splitting the video in two. So first I'm going to go over Gettysburg, and then in a second video, I will go over the Gettysburg Address document and do more of a text analysis. So that way when you're reading it, it's just like, the good old days where be at the smartboard going over stuff. Okay, so let's get in a little bit of details about Gettysburg. So Gettysburg is going to be the most northern battle of the Civil War. Now, any of you Office fans out there might argue that, there might have been someone else who had the most northern battle of the Civil War. So it's going to take place in Pennsylvania. Now, as you can see on the map over here, Pennsylvania is above Virginia. So we know the Confederate capital is going to be in Richmond. The Union capital, which is also the U.S. capital, is going to be in Washington, D.C. I included this map because it shows you how many hours it is to get there. So it's about 4.5 hours for Richmond, 3 hours Washington, D.C. So as you can see, it's, a pretty good distance from the capital. So for this battle, they're going to meet there because the South is going to decide they need to invade the North once again, because they want to move the fight from their home court, which we know started as an advantage and is going to turn into a disadvantage because now they're fighting in the fields where they grow their food, and we're going to see a food supply shortage, which is going to be a problem. So General Lee, which is the general of the Confederate Army, is going to decide to move his troops out of, their home court here and go more north, so that way they can destroy, the North's food supply instead of their own. Now, this battle is going to take place in July. Very, very warm once again here. Wool uniforms. Very, very warm and humid. So now the Union Army is going to get a new general. So Meade is going to take over. His name is also George. Lots of Georges in this time period. Because Lincoln's going to get rid of McClellan, because he felt like McClellan was too weak, even though he did have, a good run, but he wanted to change it up. So Lincoln's going to put General Meade in charge. And that's a picture of him right here. It is fun to look at the beards of the Civil War. Different Civil War generals have some pretty nice beards and some, side chops here going on. Anyways, so Gettysburg. Now, the Union is going to be successful. They are going to fend off this Confederates. Confederates are going to have to make a U-turn and go back home after this. Now, even though it was a Union victory, still a lot of people were hurt, wounded, or killed. So the Confederates lost 1/3 of their army in this. So it's counted. The totals are counted as what's called a casualty. A casualty means they're unable to return back to fight. This could mean their injury that they obtained from it was so bad that they can't continue to fight on, or they had passed away. Now, one of the problems that we're going to see here with Gettysburg is that we've seen before in other battles is there's no cleanup crew. The CDC doesn't come through and clean everything up, and everyone's sanitary. No, the townspeople have to do this. So about 10 years ago, I got to visit Gettysburg. Now, it was a very interesting situation there. So as we saw, go back on the last slide. So Gettysburg is not all flat. There is a ridge called Cemetery Ridge here. I wonder why they call it that. So they did have a vantage point, so they could see, them coming, and they were able to kind of change up how they fought a little bit here. Instead of doing the Red Rover method of, they line up, and then they send people over to try to break the line, they're going to start taking vantage points here. So we're going to see a little bit of a change, and that's why we're going to see, such a bloody aftermath. It's not the bloodiest day, bloodiest battle, because it took place over 3 days, not just a one day like Antietam, where a lot of damage was caused. So townspeople had to clean up all these dead bodies, and also horses died too. It's very sad too. So the townspeople had to go around and collect the bodies and bury them or burn them or figure out what to do with them. Now, since there were so many people and not a lot of townspeople, a lot of the bodies just sat there and rotted. They weren't ever properly buried. So it was really hard for loved ones that they knew that their, soldier had passed away, but they weren't able to have a funeral or be buried properly. So it was a big respect issue too. So both sides, had the same issue. Now, because of how horrific this was, they are going to make a cemetery here at Gettysburg. And this is where Lincoln, a couple months later, is going to give his famous Gettysburg Address. So during all this cleanup, another problem that they had here was the water supply became tainted because dead bodies and mutilated body parts from amputations were being dropped into the wells because they were just trying to get rid of them. And also, as the bodies decomposed, it seeped into the water system. And also, farm animals and stuff would eat off the bodies and then become ill. And then that, the meat would also become tainted. So when I visited Gettysburg, that was one thing that they were talking about, was just the smell. It was just how horrific the smell was. Like, we don't have, air purification systems like this. And it was summer, it was hot. So these people had to go around and clean up these bodies, even though they weren't related to them or even from their own town. So it's going to be this really bad scene. And it was really nice that Lincoln came to visit them when he gave his Gettysburg Address, because they did such great work of cleaning up after this. Okay, so in my next video, I'll talk about Gettysburg Address and go a little more into detail about it. I hope this helps understand a little bit better about what happened here at Gettysburg.